Hello and welcome to Page Turners, a weekly bookish podcast for every kind of reader. Whether you want to explore a variety of genres, tick books off your growing TBR, or simply skip the reading for book club, we've got you covered. That's Amy.
And that's Liv.
Hello!
Hello.
And we are going to make a point not to talk about the weather right now.
Nope.
No. How are you? How was your weekend?
Trying to think what I did at the weekend because it was so long ago. Yeah, it was all right, I think. Not as exciting as this weekend. This is Rudy's birthday weekend.
Hey, that's
Yes.
cute.
Yes. So it's not his birthday until next week, but this is the weekend that we will be celebrating him. So that'll be nice.
Well, of course, from all of us here at Page Turners, happy birthday, Rory.
I shall pass that on. Um, yeah, because otherwise you won't actually get to hear that for way past his birthday. But yes, I'll pass it on. Yeah, so not a very exciting weekend just gone, but this one should be more fun.
What are you planning? Anything good? Anything exciting?
Don't know what we're doing during the day. We've got a few options, because I can't talk about the weather, but some options very much relate to that. Um, and then in the evening, we're going to one of our favourite restaurants here, actually, in Stirling, called the Orangery. And if anyone listens who lives near it, you should totally go.
There we go then.
How was your weekend?
It was lovely. We were in the Cotswolds with a
Mhm.
lovely 9-month puppy. I mean, and our friends, but obviously, if they are listening, I doubt they will, but if they are listening, they know that Otto takes precedent. Um,
Mhm.
so they would expect nothing less. No, it was really nice. Just ate a lot of good food, um, played a lot of board games, just chilled out. It was really nice, yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, very, very easy. Nothing, very those simple, boring weekends you have with friends. Well, boring weekends where you just have a couple of bottles of wine, just chilling,
Mhm.
just doing
Yeah.
nothing, enjoying not the weather, but enjoying the outside.
Hmm. Outdoors. Yes.
Mm, that's it, really. What are you currently reading?
I'm reading something that's such vibes of the Rose Bargain. Like,
Oh,
such vibes. It's called Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater.
okay.
Let's just kind of give a couple of words to sum it up. Trickster Fae, Magician MMC,
Oh,
and a curse.
oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
well, report back.
Very light, very easy, part of a bigger series, unrelated, but a similar sort of vibe in each one. But yeah, good fun.
Oh, there we go then.
Yeah, what about you?
I am reading Hit List by Laurel K. Hamilton, an Anita Blake novel, number 20.
We're getting there. We're nearly there. How many books are there altogether?
Well, see, there's like 30, but there are
Yeah.
some that's like 20.5 and like, ones that are much smaller books but are like point fives and take place between books, which I will be reading. So,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. As far as I'm aware, the 30th one's called something like, oh, I don't know, cock or something. I don't know. S-
At this point, all illusions are just lost.
um
Yeah.
savor maybe or something equally like lustful or something,
Mhm.
um but yeah, I will let you know when I am, well, I'm sure there'll be a few like, what are you currently reading, this book, but when I tell you that it's the end, it's not the end. When I'm up to date, I'm up to date, and then I'll just
Mhm.
be able to do with myself, I'll have to just wait for her to write more or read
Are you
books.
enjoying it, or are you just going through the motions at the moment?
Bit of both, I think, bit of both.
Okay.
Some are quite compelling. Um, some are just an all-round sex fest, which, not normally I would complain about, but you know how we have that thing about when people have sex a little too early and then that's all they do for the rest of the book?
Hmm.
Well, we're on book 20, so you can imagine the like the same
Hmm.
sort of sex that's happening. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, all credit to Laurel at the very least. She is introducing new characters and Anita is having sex with them. So
What more can you ask?
there are lots of different topsy-turvy couple of men. A woman's just been introduced. It's very,
Oh,
very good. Yes, no, no, it's honestly, during Pride Month, it feels a bit shameful for me to be reading this because it is so heteronormative. It's unbelievable. But it's getting there. It's getting there. There
there's
are,
time. I mean, there's time. She's got to change it up somehow to be able to keep writing these books. So,
does she? I don't think so. I'm on book 20. It's only just started to change. Anyway, the, if anyone's looking for a really good read, don't come to me at the minute. That's all I'm gonna say. On to, well, we discussed last week about not calling it book news anymore, didn't we? Book happenings. What is
book
happening
happenings.
in the book world?
Um, I don't know. I've been very removed from the book world this week. I've been doing things I didn't want to do instead. Yeah, lots of work related things have been going on. So, tell me what has been happening.
What has been happening? Well, there is a bit of gossip, bit of scandal surrounding a
Okay.
book called Beverly. Yes, the book Beverly by Laura J. Robert has either just come out or is literally just coming out or whatever. Um, is basically has been discovered to be a complete rip-off of a book published many years ago called Obsessed by R.J. Lewis. And R.J. Lewis has quite a small social media presence, and they came out saying this is stolen, this book Beverly. It is word for word, just chunks of their book just put in. And
Wow.
as the speculation becomes further and further, the social media of Laura J. Robert has disappeared. Um, but
Oh.
a few internet sleuths are potentially theorizing that their initials are just opposites of each other. So Laura J. Roberts, LJR, RJ Lewis, just swapped. Um,
Oh.
and people are saying that this Laura J. Robert character never showed her face. So people are potentially speculating that it's AI that has taken this and stolen it and tried to put it out for themselves.
Oh, okay.
And whoever has done it, you know, because there'll have to be someone, um, has shit their pants a little bit because the book has gone viral because of the cover. So the cover is like this sort of, I want to say like art pop. Um, oh, what's it called? It's so
I'm
famous.
intrigued now.
Like it's comic type style art, like an Andy Warhol. That's it. And the woman,
Oh, with the dots.
yeah, on the front is like crying. That's quite an iconic cover. And it's gone
Mm,
fairly viral with people.
can't see it.
And
Laura
yeah, Beverly by
Robert.
Laura J. Roberts is basically just exactly the same book as Obsessed by R.J. Lewis.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, and then they're wondering that if the
Mm.
author or whoever is behind it shit their pants when they saw that it was going viral and have just completely gone off the track on the track.
So what has RJ Lewis said about it?
And she just came out and was like, "This is fucking stolen. Please don't. This
Oh,
book, it was, I do not have a big social media presence." I think they wondered whether it was Um, it's been brought to my attention that Beverly by Laura J. Roberts has stolen from my book Obsessed. My team and I have been painstakingly reviewing the original copy of Roberts's book, and the similarity/plagiarism cannot be ignored straight from the very start. It's very sickening and has left me shocked and saddened. This is an author's worst nightmare. I'm an author who does not have a big online presence, and thank you all for who've reached out to bring this to my attention, as I don't have much visibility on the social media space.
oh dear. So potentially someone has put a prompt in and AI has regurgitated this book
Maybe, or someone's just thought they'd get fucking lucky and just stolen the whole thing.
because she doesn't have a very big social media presence. And I assume that the original work is not viral, doesn't have the recognition that some
No,
books would.
I think it was published quite a while ago.
Mm.
Um, I want to say 2011, but I'm not 100% sure. And it's like, no disrespect, like Kindle Unlimited, like, yeah,
Yes,
2016.
yeah,
Um,
I can see what you're saying. So Kindle Unlimited maybe just kind of lost in the shuffle, and this person has
yeah,
assumed no one's really going to know this book. I'm going to get away with this.
potentially, yeah.
Mm,
So yeah, but
interesting.
they've filed a thing on online with copyright infringement with Amazon, but we'll I wonder if it'll ever come out as to who it was. These things come out. These things,
They do.
especially
They
with half
do.
of
They do.
the TikTok sleuths
Mm,
that exist. Um,
people find receipts.
that
Yep.
that
Oh
they
well.
do. Um, any good books come out this week? And just because I realize that if we then say no, none that we know of, that doesn't mean that any book that has come out this week is not good. It's just that we don't remember
No.
that they've come out this week.
No. No.
Uh, people are loving the Night and the Moth episode. That's nice to get a bunch of
People are
people.
loving The Night and the Moth. I've seen lots and lots of uh, good reviews and positive opinions about that one.
That's
So
that's all well and
we,
good, but sod Rachel Gillig, she's had her time in the light. It's our time.
yeah, we will use that work and we will benefit off the back of it, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely,
No,
right.
I haven't checked the stats. I don't know. I know you sent me a screenshot, but I don't know how good that has became. I'm not sure.
Yeah, pretty good.
But yeah.
I mean, also we hit 2,100 plays overall the other day, which was very fun. Um,
Hmm.
oh yeah, we're just living our best lives.
Absolutely. Back for season 4. Ready to go.
Ready to go. Right. Speaking of which, ask me what we read this week.
Oh, Liv, what did we read this week?
So organic. Thank you so much. Um, well, Amy, we read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. And I finished it maybe a couple of days ago. And then the day I finished it, this arrived.
Oh, lovely. But yeah, you did. Yeah, I had a feeling you read it on Kindle because you were telling me percentage wise of where you were up to. I finished it last night.
It happened. We have to read a book a week. No one, as long as we're finished by recording time, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Some trigger warnings for you. There are no trigger warnings that I could see within the book. It's it's not heavy trigger warning, but and there's no trigger warnings on V.E. Schwab's site, so I've just sort of pulled these from my butt. So
Hmm.
these in advance. Okay. Blood, violence, murder, toxic relationships, relationship abuse, grief, homophobia, um, sexual assault, sort of stalking, peril.
Of course.
Uh,
Of course. It's not a book that we've read if it doesn't have peril in it.
sort of like a forced marriage situation, death of a child, maybe like marital rape, sort of allusions
Hmm.
to that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, if you can think of anything more, please let me know.
No, I would say probably on page marital rape. But yeah, it's I think you've covered all of them.
Smashing. Excellent. Well, with that, of course, as always, comes into the summary of speed.
Hmm.
I will count you down.
Okay. Well, I want to just do a little caveat first. So this does not have your traditional timeline. We're all over the place. So to tell the story and to summarize it the best way I could, I have done it chronologically.
Cool, fair.
Okay. So this doesn't come in this order in the story, but it is the story. So you'll get the idea.
Fair enough. If you are a reader of V.E. Schwab, you know that sometimes she does love to play with time, and
Hmm.
yeah, so this is not something that should surprise us. But if this is your first V.E. Schwab, um, yeah, she likes to play with time.
Yeah. And it's really hard to summarize it in that way. So I haven't.
Better you than me. Are you ready?
Mhm.
Three, two, one, go.
In a small Spanish town, Maria's life changes when a strange widow in grey called Sabine appears. She's a healer feared by the village, but Maria is drawn to her. When Maria is forced into a cold, controlling marriage, the widow offers her a way out, run away with her, and become a vampire. Maria accepts, but during her transformation kills Sabine. Taking Sabine's name for her own, she kills her husband and his parents, burns their home, and disappears into the night. Sabine's new life is long and brutal. She learns to survive, take up space, and finds chosen families and ancient vampires whilst trying to hold on to her humanity. But over time, the hunger wins. Years later, she meets Charlotte, or Lottie, a young woman in the 19th century England, hungry for more than the marriage marked. Sabine turns her, asking only one thing, never to hurt her. That promise becomes a prison. As Sabine rots from the inside, Lottie is trapped, unable to stop her even as she becomes a monster. Lottie runs, but Sabine follows, killing anyone she loves. Decades later, to punish Lottie one final time, Sabine turns Alice, a Scottish girl who's moved to America to escape the death of her sister. Alice wakes up lost, starving, and transformed. She finds Lottie, learns her fate, and together they kill Sabine in an effort to break the curse and reclaim Alice's humanity. But the curse doesn't break. Lottie has lied to Alice and tricked her into killing Sabine as she cannot. Alice sees the truth. Lottie's become heartless like Sabine, so she kills her too. Alice is left undead, alone, and hungry, but free.
I mean, dare I say, the best written speedy summary we've ever done. Almost
That took too long.
1 minute 23. You absolutely nailed it.
That
I
took me about 45 minutes to write.
would only 1 minute 23 to read, so clearly your efforts are not wasted. I think that is a summary only truly in honor of the Schwab's writing. Perfect.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, think I must have rewritten that about 5 times, to be honest. Just trying to get it even shorter, even shorter, even shorter. Missed so much, but you get the idea.
Well, let's start with first impressions. Obviously, is this your first VE Schwab?
No, no. So I've done Addie LaRue, what's Vicious?
Yep.
Yeah. It's done a few. Very familiar with the writing style, really like it. I think we've talked before that some authors write in a way that we just enjoy. It feels easy to read. I don't mean that in it's simplistic. I just mean it's just so easy to kind of get lost in that writing style and really understand the story that the author is trying to tell. And I felt the same way about this story. I think I was on 10% for about 4 days. And then I started last night from 15% and finished it.
Wow, fair enough. Fair enough. That says it all.
Hmm.
Yeah, just to elaborate on what you were saying about writing styles, we mentioned it last week as well. Did we? Oh goodness, who knows? We've mentioned it when we've been sat in this. I've been sat in this room.
Hmm.
um purple prose and the idea that like sometimes it becomes a little too fancy and people try and focus more on the fancy flanciness of it and then the plot gets lost. V.E. Schwab is not one of those people. She has such a way with words and the ability to just write your emotions on the page and have them written as if you've never seen them before, but that's exactly how you
Hmm.
feel. So
Mm.
that's probably one of the biggest compliments I could ever give someone is that it's
It's just so tight. It's just so well edited. It's just, there's no word used where there shouldn't be. It's, I mean, yeah, it's amazing.
yeah.
Incredible writer.
This book is sort of pitched as toxic lesbian vampires.
Hmm.
I feel that's what we get. However,
Go on.
I found it lacking.
Oh, we're doing final thoughts right off the bat.
I'm more doing like initial thoughts.
So you found it lacking early pages? Like it took you a
No,
while to get into it, or you just didn't like it straight away?
no, none of those things, none of the above. It was the ending for me. Like it it just it was missing something. I cannot tell you what it is missing, so obviously that's really annoying. That's your friend in a pub quiz that tells you your answer is wrong but doesn't have an answer of their own. I get it, I know. Like, but it just
That's fair. Sometimes you can't put your finger on it. Sometimes it just doesn't hit the way you want it to hit. And this book is nothing if not a build up to something amazing at the end. And I don't think we get it. I don't think we get something amazing, but I still really liked how it ended.
I sort of pitched myself the idea that, and I think I mentioned this last week, um, that if this book was great, I was going to treat myself to the beautiful Illumicray edition.
Hmm.
And I'm not treating myself to the Illumicray edition.
Fair enough.
And I maybe I'll caveat that with I have this edition that I wasn't expecting arriving.
Hmm.
But also, I don't know, I'll tell you exactly what I expected. I expected a really strong sort of moment of like, yes, females kicking female ass. And instead, and it's not a bad thing, it's very realistic. We got quite sad, quite disappointing, and
A really sad ending. Absolutely. The cycle continues. I think that is it. It's just, yeah, maybe you just didn't want too much realism in a vampire book.
true, yeah, maybe. But
Mhm.
let's see if we can change my mind before the end of the episode.
It's our speciality.
So as Amy mentioned, yes, we have a sort of twisting, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly sort of chronology nightmare. I don't mean that
Hmm.
in a bad way, it's great. Although there were moments where I was like, I don't care about this person anymore. I want to go back and find out what is
Uh,
happening.
hmm.
For me, it was the bit where Lottie then starts talking about her life with Sabine. I was like, I don't care.
I know. And we knew it was going to be so drawn out, that part. And it was. When they got to, like, I think maybe the third house, because they were just traveling around killing families and living in their houses. Vampires. Um, when we got to the third one, I was a bit like, right, wait, come on, we know. Let's keep it moving. So I kind of see what you mean. Which timeline were you more interested in? Did you enjoy Sabine's timeline and then it converging with Alice's, or did you prefer to read about Alice in the kind of present day?
See, I think for me, I was like, I was really interested in Sabine at first. I was
Hmm. Hmm.
this is my heroine. Yes, I'm on board
Hmm.
with this. Fuck yeah. She, what I loved about it, you mentioned it in the speedy summary, and I appreciate that it's not necessarily, you said like you say forced into a marriage. Yes, societally she is forced into the marriage, but she picks him. She
Hmm.
sets this whole thing up. We're already being set like she's what, 19, 20?
I think at the start she's 19, I think, but it's hard to remember because no, I think she is 19 because she stays 19,
Right.
I
Yeah.
think.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's
Oh yeah, she sets it up. Yeah, yeah. She makes it almost as she gives him no choice but to marry her.
Yeah, he said, and she takes this viscount. She sees him at the head of like a sort of a bunch of horses, and she's all like,
Hmm.
"Oh, look at me, I'm so sexy." And then they go to a little alley, and he gives, and she's like, "Oh, if you want more, ring on the finger, ring on the finger."
Hmm.
And he does, and then
He
obviously it all
does.
goes to shit.
Yeah, it all goes to shit quite quickly. I think I really mourned Maria. I loved
Oh,
Maria.
mm,
Right from page one, right away when she was like, you could tell there was just something about her. She was so twisted. Um, I really missed her when she became Sabine. Not right away,
mm,
like right, it was okay to start with, but as her humanity gets chipped away at more and more and more, and you lose Maria, and very much Sabine takes over.
yeah.
I, looking back now at how much I liked her when she was Maria, I didn't realize just how far removed from that we get.
Oh, that's such an interesting point. No, I really like that. And even me myself saying, "Oh, I like Sabine's chapters." I'm even referring to her as Sabine when she's still Maria.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Um,
Mm.
I get it, right? Like it's not supposed to have been a happy ending because
No,
how
not at
how
all.
how could it have been? But I just wanted better for all of them, and I
I
think
know.
I think that's where my disappointment lies, which of course is not fair in any way because my expectations should not dictate the story. Um, but I think you're right. I wanted less realism. Um,
Yes.
I wanted that happy ever after.
Hmm. And we got some nice moments of like, yes, this is satisfying. Like when Sabine kills the Viscount, the Count and the Countess and burns the house.
mm,
Yes, this
yeah,
is what we want to read. But those kind of victories were quite short-lived. It felt like there was quite a lot of times that things felt quite hollow, like she was going through the motions almost because so much time had passed.
yeah. I think as well, the hollow's a great word because that's how she feels all the time. Like the whole premise all the way through is that yes, they're vampires. They don't have to fear an awful lot, but
Mm.
the thing that ties them is their hunger, and they are never sated.
Never. Really, really interesting. I loved the use of the vampire lore in this story. There were some things that were very familiar, and then there were some things that were heightened, and the hunger was one of those things.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah. Very much a servant master type relationship with their hunger. Yeah, so let's do a little bit of vampire lore. You had to be invited in.
Yes.
You could go out in the sun, but it was
Yeah,
quite
but you got really ill, didn't you?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
quite
Hmm.
almost like the sun was draining. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
but as far as I could tell, I mean, I love the food one. The food one is always really fascinating for me. Um, very as soon as she said that the food sort of tasted like rotten food, however, I just thought Pirates of the Caribbean with Bavo.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes of any film. Yeah. Yes, it's one of those classic moments of oh no, when she eats the porridge at Harvard and then and she doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Man.
great. What else was there that we might
They
be
can see
familiar
themselves
with
in
with
mirrors.
vampires?
They can see themselves in mirrors, so that's not one.
Mm. They can read thoughts, they can read each other's thoughts.
Yes, the sort of extended vampire power law type thing was
Mm.
still even
Mm-hmm.
further put upon with
Mm-hmm.
the idea that there are different types of powers and persuasion and things, and I really
Mm-hmm.
like the older you get, the better you have a handle on that. Um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so I I think for me the best bit of the book was when Sabine is with Matteo and Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's the turning point where we really see Sabine start to lose it because she comes to care for Alexander just as much as Matteo has,
Mm-hmm.
despite like referring to him as a human pet or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he dies, and Matteo sort of creates another vampire that's a pale imitation, but is not any way the
Yes.
same. And
Giovanni, I think it is. Yeah.
they have
Yes.
they have to kill him, and then he
Hmm.
goes off to America. I
No,
re
he's killed. He's killed by the townspeople because he's too reckless. He's his hunger. He has doesn't have any control over it whatsoever, and he's just too rash and kills. I think like someone in a public place or something, and then he is instantly killed.
yeah, but I almost feel like Matteo was underutilized. I thought we would see him again. Um,
Yeah, but I felt like that about like it was really interesting. I guess it's to show that nothing is infinite, I guess, because Hector and Renata, I thought they were going to be huge characters and like a found family almost for Sabine. And although they were to an extent, when they were, I think this chapter starts with it was snowing the day that they died or something like that. And I was like, who died? What?
not my
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah. So I quite liked the way that we saw her navigate her life and lose people along the way, despite the fact that she is a vampire.
Yeah, and Yeah, I think maybe all of that adds to the sort of feeling of her at the end where she's sort of like she almost gives up and gives up that
Hmm.
last shred of humanity to just be like, do you know what?
Hmm.
Fuck it, there's no point. Nothing is infinite, you know. I
Hmm.
was told this was an immortal life. I mean, I was shocked when she fucking drains the widow dry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because that was really interesting. I thought so. The widow is really kind to her, actually. Teaches her how to read and gives her chocolate. And I thought, oh, okay, we're getting into the sway here. This is very much just to kill her. And because we learn later that if you can delay the gratification of a kill, it's more satisfying and it tastes better ultimately. But that wasn't the case at all. The widow was just trying to give her an out, and then Maria, yeah, kills her, drains her completely.
Accidentally, obviously.
Ah, of course, yeah. Mm.
Ooh. So, do you think it wasn't an accident?
I don't know. Um, I think I might be too far removed from Maria now because of how big of a presence Sabine is by the end of the story, to be honest. But there was always shades of she's a victim to the circumstances. She's villainous sometimes in her intent. We talked a little bit about how things progress with the Viscount, and so I don't know if she was always 100% reliable.
Interesting. Hmm.
Mm.
I really like that. And it puts a little bit of a different spin on it if you consider that she could have stopped, but
Mm.
she didn't. Okay. Well,
Mm.
here now to tell us, V. Schwab, welcome. If
Yeah, don't expect that from us.
yeah,
She's not coming on.
I know sometimes I think should we do that, but then actually, creates a whole different dynamic, doesn't it?
Other characters, Alice. Should we crack on with her?
Yes, sorry, we donated a lot of time to Sabine, slash Maria. Alice,
Mm.
I really liked Alice. I thought she was funny. She was a real a real welcome levity throughout, you know, sort of the the drama and the quite tragic tale that was Sabine and Maria's life.
Mhm.
Um, I I felt for her. Um, At first, I was because I did some of this I did immersively, so I listened to it on audiobook and I also read for a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
so it was quite interesting. Well, it might have been three different women, I'm not sure,
Oh, cool.
or
Oh,
it might have
great.
just been one woman doing three different accents, um,
Hmm. Yeah,
of which they were all pretty good. So um,
nice.
it was good, yeah, no, but yeah. So having Alice speak in a Scottish accent but then be in Boston was very like, huh? Huh?
I I didn't find her inner voice particularly realistic, to be honest. I think if she had referred to like a mobile phone rather than a cell phone, I just think it would have been a bit more immersive, but sometimes that took me out a little bit.
Oh, interesting. So she was quite, despite being Scottish, was quite Americanized in that.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, there was just some other references made to her being unable to understand two of her American friends speaking. And I just thought, I don't know if that's necessarily very relatable. I feel like America and American media is so prevalent that we don't. I can see why the opposite would be true.
Mm,
If you have a particularly strong Scottish accent in America, it might be quite difficult to tune into that because there's probably not as much Scottish influence in America. But
mm,
for us, I just don't know how. I don't know. I could see what V. Schwab was doing. I just didn't always truly buy that Alice was Scottish.
very fair, very
But I
fair.
liked I liked the use of Egypt and I liked the use of Bobag. So there were some wins in there.
Yeah. Well, you can't have a good ball bag. What can't you have? Um,
Exactly.
I wonder whether there's more of a commentary there on the sense that like it's a bit of like satire of like, oh, I couldn't really understand the Americans because Scots find it,
Mhm.
themselves quite like at the mercy of, huh? What?
Mm.
So maybe it's a sort of a purposeful thing, but again, here to tell us, Fish, what? No, she can't. It's all speculation, guys. What are you gonna do? You're stuck with us and
Hmm.
our thoughts. No, but I really like that. I didn't pick up on the sort of slight Americanisms, which sometimes do you ever just feel like you don't actually read?
Yes. When we're having these conversations and you say something and I think, did that who?
Yeah,
When did
right.
that happen? Yeah.
Um,
I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, all the time. I found Alice's story really sad with her
yeah.
sister. Oh, that broke me, especially at the end when you find out that she never made it to London and she was only ever in Glasgow.
Oh, right. So
Oh,
yeah, so Catty
oof.
is her sister, and Alice is about, is it 3 years younger, 4 years younger?
Yeah, think
And
so.
they lose their mum when Alice is about 7 or 8. Um,
Hmm.
and then basically it's sort of a sort of you keep going back to flashbacks of Catty getting annoyed with her dad and their new stepmom, who I really appreciate not being a horrible stepmom trope.
Hmm.
Like was actually it felt even more tragic that she was lovely.
I know. I thought we were going to get it at one point, and then very quickly that wasn't the case. So yeah, I agree. That was, yeah, refreshing.
And you get to sort of see Catty sort of watching her mum slowly slip away as her and her dad and Eloise, the new stepmom, have a kid, get married, sort of have this family. And Alice also starts to assimilate into that because she doesn't really remember her mum.
Mm-mm.
And
No, it doesn't affect her anywhere the same way it affects Catty. I think Catty is quite alone in her grief.
yeah, and so we watch a lot of interaction between the sisters of Caddy sort of storming out of the house and Alice calling her back and trying to get her to come back, and so it's very like a very much a battle every time we get a flashback
Mm,
with Caddy and Alice, and they have these grand plans to go off together when Alice is old enough, and one night it just gets too much and Catty goes and doesn't come back, and she rings Alice from says that she's in York, and Alice is sort of
hmm.
grief stricken, come home, like
Hmm.
you said you'd wait. And then she rings her from London and she sort of sends her this voicemail of like, oh, isn't it tragic how we only get one life? And and then you find out, I think at that point I knew that she was going to die. I didn't know that she wasn't in London.
I think it was so masterfully done because the insinuation is that she has become very dependent on drugs, I would say, because there's the
Yeah.
idea of one minute she's very frenetic on the phone, the next minute she's very sort of slow and languid, and we know what's going on, but Alice either doesn't know or doesn't want to accept what's happening.
I think at the time Alice is how old? What, 13?
Yeah.
So I think that's really beautifully done, like you said, masterfully done, where I didn't realize it until now that like obviously we only know what Alice knows. And if
Mhm.
Alice doesn't understand that Caddy's either on a drug dependent or whatever, then we don't know.
Mhm.
Here to tell us. No, so
You've just so, again, just that use of just saying so much by saying not so little, but just enough to plant the seed and to foreshadow what you were saying you didn't see coming. I didn't think she would, I didn't know, to be honest, because I did wonder why Alice had moved to America. What was the catalyst there? She seemed that she was eaten up by grief, by guilt. There was definitely something going on. But because she is turned into a vampire so quickly, I think it's difficult for us as readers to truly understand what is her humanity and what is struggling to understand what is going on with her, because she's obviously going through a huge transformation.
yeah, and we find through a lot of literature and also in this book as well, vampires or that transformation, that's all that vampires are a symbol of in books. It's never, oh, you look deeper enough, you'll see that it's not necessarily, oh, they've become a vampire, but it's a transformation in the character.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
but we always see that transformation heightens emotions or the emotions they had previously in the story. So Alice's grief is just pouring out of her tenfold and threatening to
Mm.
drown her. But yeah, they get a call basically saying that Catty has died and she just stepped out in front of a car and she didn't make it further than Glasgow,
So she
which
was only ever, because I think she's in a place called, is it Hawksburn, I think they say, which I don't think is a real place in Scotland. It could be, I'm not sure. But she's only an hour away.
yeah,
So she's never been further than an hour away from them.
and
Oh.
yeah, that really sad. So the reason we get with obviously, and that's really far towards the end of the book.
Hmm.
Alice's journey to Boston makes more sense. Like her mum went there, and there's a particular tree that she has a picture of, and it's
Hmm.
almost. I wonder, and this is English literature coming out here. If Alice is being turned into a vampire and having that vampire life and, killing Lottie at the end and killing Sabine and sort of going off is more of like the first choice she's made for herself in a way, not
Hmm.
necessarily becoming a
Hmm.
vampire because, she almost feels as if she goes to Boston through grief as an almost a oh well Catty never got here, Catty never got further than Glasgow, and also Mum was here, so almost she does it for her mum,
Hmm.
she does it for Catty, but she doesn't do it for herself. There's
Yeah, no, I like that.
there's
Yeah. I
talk of
just think it's very sad though that she doesn't get the same choice as anyone else. You know, she doesn't get the conversation that Maria gets with Sabine. She doesn't get the choice, well, maybe less so, because she's quite under the thrall at that point that Lottie gets the illusion of. Um, it happens without her even knowing about it because she thinks she's with Lottie and actually Sabine is there, as she always says, a shadow over Lottie's life, which I still didn't really understand how.
right, yes, good. I'm glad we've gotten to this bit. So Lottie is sort of basically Lottie's gotten to the point where she's running from Sabine and then she sort of settles down a couple times. Sabine's like, I was gonna say pew pew, obviously they don't use guns. Sabine like comes in and kills one, turns
Snaps her neck.
yeah,
Lovely.
turns another, and
Hmm.
Lottie kills her. Uh,
Hmm.
and
Which is a little bit unfair because I understand Lottie's point. She says, "Oh, I had to kill her because she had taken her humanity was going to be stripped away." But you're like, "Mm, but you did."
we will definitely come. I definitely think let us try and do what we don't normally do, and let's try and remember that we're going to come back to that point about Lottie's
I'm
decision.
going to write it down.
Excellent, that's good. Look at this professionalism, guys. Yeah, and then so Lottie then decides, oh right, well it's not that I can't have connection. I'm so lonely, but I can't have connection. I can go and fuck a bunch of girls, do leave them for a night,
Mhm.
and then I can weirdly and very emo boy-like write a few words about them in the back of Donna Tartt's Secret History.
Oh, I know that was a bit much. That was a bit cringe,
All
especially
right,
when how old she was supposed to be.
I know, such a fucking stereotypical emo goth vampire. Anyway,
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so Lottie and Alice are getting down, doing the do, and at some point we're supposed to believe that Lottie leaves and
Hmm.
gets back to her place just in time for sunrise.
Hmm.
And in that time, Sabine somehow gets into the apartment, somehow gets into the flat, into the suite, sorry, um, and then into Alice's room
Hmm.
and turns her.
Yeah.
How?
Know how. I've no idea how. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we get really enough of an understanding of what that kind of maker relationship is. It is mentioned that there's this very strong connection between whoever turns you and you, but does that mean that Sabine knows all the time where Lottie is and can always track her and trace her? I might have missed that bit. That might have been explained better, but I just couldn't really get it.
I think there's an implication that there's some sort of deeper connection, but that is
Hmm.
that is given to us by Sabine, and as we've discussed, she is a very unreliable narrator,
Hmm.
and it could be
Mm.
potentially a romanticized view of her connection with Lottie, trying to be like, no matter where you run, I will always find you. We are, you
Hmm.
know. But at the same time, it's not even so much that. I can understand that she's probably watching Lottie. That's 100%. She follows them home. Great, cool. How does she get invited in?
Very good point.
Who lets her in?
Oh, who lets her in?
Like,
Who would let her in?
I get, maybe there's a loophole somewhere where, somebody opens the door, she's spamming on the intercom being like Amazon delivery, and she gets let through the front door. Fine, but how
Uber
does she
Eats, and they're like, yeah, come on in.
yeah,
Yeah, I
essentially,
don't
yeah.
know.
But like how
Um,
does
hmm.
she get into the flat itself? Because apparently there's no one else there. Well, at least if there's no one else there, like I don't know. I don't know. I would
I
have maybe
don't know.
wondered if there's some sort of like even some sort of thing where the lassie, the horrible roommate, is like, "Oh, did your friend get out all right last night?"
Yes, I was just going to say that V. Schwab could have written one sentence to explain that whole thing,
Yeah.
and we would have been able to say, okay, there we go. That's how it
So
happened.
something like I don't know, something like maybe you should like a snarky thing of maybe you should tell your conquests or whatever not to wake us
Hmm.
in the middle of the night. Like we can't just be shepherding,
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
whatever.
Or like two in one night, like that kind of like really judgmental sort of, yeah, I don't know. It could have been something along those lines, but no, I don't think anything gets mentioned.
No, it doesn't. Again, here to tell us why. No, that is the last time I will do it. I really promise. But yeah, so that's it. Now, let's go back to what we were meant to go back to. So, as we discussed, Sabine basically is stalking Lottie for lots of many, many years, and
Many years.
Lottie settles down with two people. The first one,
Mhm.
Sabine sort of is outside in the hallway with her, has grabbed her, and Lottie is like, I'm not coming out, like, oh no, don't do this, and then she just breaks her neck. Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second one, Lottie comes home and she's sort of like her partner's sort of like on the bed, all slumped over.
Hmm.
She's like, oh no, she's fucking killed her, and then she wakes up and you realize that she's turned her, and Sabina's nowhere to be seen. Um, and yeah, so Lottie decides that the only her only recourse is to kill this girl she loves. Mm.
I don't know. I don't know. That decision didn't really make any sense to me. I tried to think about why it could be because we do get the understanding towards the end of the story, and Alice recognizes that Lottie is losing her humanity as well. So that's why she decides to kill her. But that's part of the story when she's found someone that she wants to settle down with again. She's opened up her heart to someone else because she knows if she does, Sabina's going to kill them. So at this point, she doesn't really want to meet anyone and fall in love with them. I don't know why that decision was just, I'm going to kill them. I
Well,
don't get it.
so that's Ezra says as well that they meet this sort of like very exposition heavy character Ezra, and
I
he
know.
sort of like he's a vampire and he says you could turn them and then they would at least have a fighting chance against Sabine. Almost quite judgmentally, and I kind of liked it because it's sort of like what do you're almost, no matter what you do,
Oh,
marking people for
so the
death.
element of does Lottie quite like it? Does she still have that
I, I
control over her, Sabine? I don't know.
I wonder if there's a selfish element in the sense that like, well, as long as she's not doing anything to me, and as we watch her
Mhm.
humanity slip away, that warring thing of, oh, but what about I don't want these girls to whatever, we had a connection, etc., etc., versus, oh, okay, maybe as long as it's not happening to me, I can go
And I can still do what I want to do and
and
be with these girls and yeah, yeah.
on another level, I do think there's a mention when this lassie comes to and she's like, "Oh, Sabine said this. She just explained everything." And Lottie does have this moment of the three of us will be intrinsically linked, and she
Hmm.
ties me to Sabine, and maybe she will use that. So I wonder
Yes.
whether there's an act there where killing her frees her from Sabine. Again, qu selfish, but fairly self-preserving, at least.
Yes. And maybe a bit unnecessary because she's already got that connection with Sabine, you know? Like she's already in that situation. It's not necessarily going to make anything worse by keeping that person alive. Well, as a vampire. Yeah,
I
yeah,
I
just yeah.
I wonder if the only sort of real true narrative is the last chapter, because Lottie seems quite unreliable. We've spoken
Oh
about
yeah.
being quite
Hmm.
unreliable. Alice isn't doing anything really for herself. So the last chapter, when Alice is just walking back to her dormitory, and her dad calls and they have this nice little half an hour chat, and she realizes that she's alive, but she's hungry, and that's where it ends. Maybe that's the only real true narrative or that we get.
I don't know. I definitely, yeah, Sabine's 100% unreliable. I think Lottie probably is as well, to be honest, but Lottie's unreliable in a different way, I would say. I think Sabine makes things more exciting and glamorous,
Mm.
and Lottie very much sees herself as, oh, why me, poor me, I'm very empathetic. I put people before me. Because she does have a sense of guilt around the kills. She's very against killing kids. We get quite a bit of infant death in this story. So I don't know if that's always as selfless it as she makes it come across, to be honest.
Yeah, also you saying she's really against killing kids, it's very like, oh, he's such a good dad, he spends time with the kids. Like it's such a low bar.
It's
So
it's
like,
such the bar is in the dirt, buried in the dirt, in the midnight soil for sure.
oh,
Hmm.
the bar's gonna rise as a
Oh.
little vampire. Like, reviews.
Let's do it. Okay. Would you like to start with the plethora of five-star reviews or the few one-star reviews that I could actually find?
Let's go 5 star. Let's get them out the way. Like I was speaking to, sorry, just to do a little intro to this. I was speaking to my friend Danny. Both her and I felt quite similar with this. Was that there was just something, and I think maybe we've sort of identified it as we've gone through. Um, and I said I think the problem is V. Schwab's so good and her back catalogue is great, and so she's got such a strong fan base that I don't know if there's going to be enough people for us to be able to talk about what's actually wrong with it, or like, because I feel like people are just like, oh, Insta buy author, 5 stars, 5 stars,
Yes,
done it
there's a
again.
lot of that. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of this is incredible. This is sapphic vampires. That's all I want. This is toxic. I loved it. I say some, a lot of people have said it is her best work to date.
Interesting.
Yep. And this is a five-star review, but I think maybe this might touch on what you think is missing, or it sort of harkens to that. So someone has said, even after 500 plus pages, I want more. Do you think there is something missing? Do you feel like the end was rushed, or do you feel like there was something we just didn't get?
I don't think the end, well, I think the end was abrupt for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think the problem is I was reading this and looking at my percentage and being like, is there going to be a second one? Because I don't
Oh, okay.
believably you could kill a what is she, 500-year-old vampire
Mhm.
as easily as baby Alice does.
I feel like in some ways, are we supposed to think that Sabine is just kind of given up? That she's just tired? I don't know, because I agree. I didn't feel like the big climax was that satisfying, to be honest.
And it just seems like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like so Alice goes and like she lets Sabine think that they're gonna bang. Um, the oldest trick in the book as well, Sabine. Like, come. And then Alice goes to the shower, turns on the shower and then uses her preternatural force, new strength, sorry, to like crush the sink. First of all, Sabine's
Hmm.
getting that hotel deposit back. So like,
Not at all. That's gone.
and then she's got a sort of sharp piece of marble, concrete, something.
I think so. Porcelain? I don't really know.
Whatever she has is with her, and then she's in the shower and she's like waiting and it's all steamy and everything. So apparently it's so steamy that you cannot see. You can't
Cannot see a thing.
you can't see the damage that's been done, and you also cannot hear the damage, despite the fact that you've got like supernatural hearing and supernatural eyes, which have clearly only gotten better over time. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then she turns around and she's like, stab Alice, who is not also a doctorate major. She's not a medic, so she has no belief in anatomy. She has, sorry, no previous knowledge of anatomy. So how is she gonna stab her so convincingly up into her heart? I'm
And she
just,
only has one go at it because let's face it, if she misses, Sabina's going to fuck her up. So she really only gets one chance.
yes, she does. Yeah, but my original point is like, you put on the shower, you're still gonna hear me doing a poo. Like,
I
it's
was
not.
going to say it's given that. It's given like put the tap on so you can't hear what's going on, but we can hear what's going on. I mean, I can hear if I can hear that, I can hear you smashing up a sink.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was a little bit like, that doesn't really make, and then just to end it there with her walking home, this is a problem with me. We've talked about this for the last 55, 56 episodes. I like a nice little bow, but I also do like a little, here's her in however many years or whatever.
Hmm.
I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily want that. I just wanted perhaps a bit more cemented structure of what we were going to expect from Alice, what was going to happen.
We definitely get the least from Alice in
Mm.
terms of satisfaction of her story. I think Sabine's story, we get the whole thing. Lottie, slightly less, but we do get a bit more about her background, which I've really enjoyed those parts. And then it was very nice how she goes back to her childhood home and the um
Oh, the
the
love.
storyline with her and Jocelyn. Yeah, it was just so bittersweet. Um, so I think that's maybe more satisfying than Alice. Alice's story was, in my opinion, the weakest one. We're talking earlier, like which one did you enjoy the most? When I wasn't as interested in Alice's story.
For me, it was Lottie. Like
Mm,
I liked I liked the bits, but I just felt like I don't know, I'd already built my interest in Sabine and Alice, and then
hmm.
to sort of put Lottie's came a bit too late for me to be like, oh, I've
Hmm.
got to engage with a third character. Uh,
Yeah, I don't think Lottie actually gets introduced until like halfway through the story. Like introduced in the her timeline, not the kind of modern day timeline that we first see her in, but her actual timeline when she was alive.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Unpredictable. People just loved it because they just didn't know what was going to happen next.
I would agree with that. I wasn't expecting Sabine to have turned Alice. I thought maybe something went wrong, and while they were getting down and dirty, maybe some blood had transferred between the two of them, like something like that.
Hmm.
I'm glad it wasn't that because that would have been really like just.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I didn't expect that to happen. I don't think I don't know what else I didn't expect. A better ending. I expected a better.
Hmm. I didn't think Catty would die.
I think something quite strong would have to have happened for
Hmm.
Alice to move and need a whole new life almost. So either something quite traumatic in terms of an accident or Catty had done something like maybe killed Eloise,
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
like that. I'm not really sure. But no, I wasn't 100% sure she died.
Oh, there was a bit I went, and that's when Lottie's brother James, is that his name?
Yeah,
When Jocelyn writes to Lottie and basically says, James has proposed, I'm going to marry James. I did inhale at that point.
yeah, yeah. All the way through, and I'm sort of just thinking about this now, and I suppose I was at the time, but like it's just how unfair society is to
Yes,
queer
yeah.
people.
Yeah,
Right.
the whole thing was just screamed of unfairness, didn't it? And that's what I'm saying. We got little moments of victory, but they were snuffed out super quickly.
Yeah, which maybe that's the whole point. Again, maybe
Oof.
becoming a vampire is not the point. It's not that they're transforming into a vampire, they're transforming into their true queer selves. Because all
Yeah, the whole time. Yeah, the suppression the whole time. That's
and all
true.
of them have these like oh, like with her first with the Viscount's maid and that sort of like beginning of a love story.
Isabel. Yeah. Hmm.
And then obviously Lottie with Jocelyn and then Alice she comes and but the idea that Alice is in the modern and she is almost allowed to have that
I
identity
liked that
at
though.
a point.
Yeah. I like that Alice still did suffer homophobia, though. I feel like it was very realistic. I didn't really want it to just be a case of Alice has a life full of acceptance and no struggles and doesn't, totally understands who she is and accepts it wholeheartedly. She's still very much struggling with that element of her identity, even up to the point where she's turned into a vampire.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but oh man, we're just on it today. Right, read me some more reviews.
I'm going to go for 1 star now. All
Okay,
right.
okay.
No plot.
I just
No.
I
Like no linear narrative. I can kind of see maybe why people would struggle with it, but I feel like if you've read it and you've just heard me summarize it, so there is a plot.
yeah,
It's just not in the right order.
I struggle with that sort of like black and white thinking of like no plot whatsoever. I'm like, well, there is. You learn about these women's lives. I'm turning back on myself and being like, what more were you expecting? What more were you expecting, Liv? But
Yeah.
you I think that's wrong. I mean, you've got little mysteries, what happens to Maria slash Sabine, who is Lottie? There was a point where I thought maybe Sabine became Lottie again. Um,
Hmm.
and then, you know, yeah, no, I think that's completely wrong.
I don't agree either. No, I can see maybe why you would struggle if it's maybe your first time reading a book like this where it isn't linear, but I feel like it makes perfect sense. It all ties up nicely. Everybody meets at the end.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
satisfying in
uh,
that manner as well.
very satisfying. Unlikable, cliched characters.
I liked Alice very much. I didn't think Alice was a cliche. I I don't think Sabine was a cliche. She was a fucking force of nature, a chaotic force of nature that I didn't really know what was going to do next. Lottie
Mm-mm.
for me was my least liked, but that doesn't
Mm.
out of three, she's my third, it doesn't mean that
Hmm.
I didn't like her.
No.
Um, I think that she was subverted in
Hmm.
sort of savior trope because she lies to Alice and says, if you kill Sabine, it should take your humanity back. Um, and that I I had two warring things going on in my head. I was like, I never considered it was a lie. Um, but I was like,
No.
if this is true and this actually happens, I'm going to be quite disappointed because what she's now just like gonna go back to life as normal, is she?
I
What?
know. And why has nobody else done this? If this is a thing that you can do, why has no one else thought to do it? Why have we not read about it yet up until this point? I did think she was going to use her because we knew the promise that she was under that sort of she's made a vow, if you like, and she can't break it. And it's the words that tie her to being unable to hurt Sabine.
Yeah.
So I did think she was going to use Alice to get around that, but not in the way that she did.
And nor did I expect her to have planned to kill her.
No,
That
no.
final tie to Sabine, just yeah,
Hmm.
I thought that was quite shocking. And
Hmm.
I don't know if Lottie was as far gone humanity wise as I think we're meant to think she is. I think she's been quite fairly calculated from the beginning.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it says unlikable. Yeah, I didn't like all their choices. I didn't like everything that each character did, but it doesn't make me dislike the book anymore. I don't think you have to like a character to enjoy reading about them.
Yeah, no, I think I completely agree. Like I think I was just so sad that Sabine became who she did. I wanted
Mm,
more for her. And I think that's
mhm,
maybe what's upset me is that I wanted more
mhm.
from her. Yeah, no, I don't think they were predictable. I don't think they
Yep.
were stereotypical.
Mhm.
Wrong.
Okay, last one. A toxic portrayal of women taking power from men or their power being tied to men.
I don't think their power's tied to men at all.
I think we do get a lot of almost like revenge stories with the Viscount. I can see why she does it. With the suitor, I think there's like a suitor that Lottie has that Sabine makes her kill.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't think it necessarily has to be because they're a man.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a revenge one because he seems, look, he's whoever he is, but like he doesn't do anything wrong. We get Colin, the attempted rapist in yeah, which was mad. I was just
Some
like,
people didn't like that. A lot of people didn't like that. They said that that was just too much. Like it was too just too much for the sake of it. I don't know, because I think that's a nice parallel between Sabine Sabine's experience and then Alice's experience, and the fact that that cycle is continuing, that violence towards women is continuing through time.
yeah, I like that, but I like your take on that. I thought it was sort of to mirror the idea that men or like people can still be predators even if they're not a vampire or not a monster.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
sort of like he did the sort of typical vampire thing, taking them off, being like, "Oh, it's okay, we'll get you home," sort of thing. Like, I did think it was a little like, "What? Who's this? What the fuck?" Just like random bloke, just like, is it premeditated? What has he done here? Like, is he just
I
waiting?
know. And then it turned out he was one of her roommate's friend, her boyfriend, or someone that she was seeing. I don't really know what was going on there.
Oh, yeah, one of her roommates, like whatever. Yeah, yeah, that was it was an interesting one. I was confused by that. But I didn't think it was unnecessary. I don't know. I think harkening everything back to women getting it all from men sets us back in a way. Like, I think the whole thing was quite empowering, quite feminist because it didn't go right. You,
Yeah.
you
The
know,
only thing for me that didn't quite sit right in that way was I struggled to see an actual non-toxic relationship between two women in the story.
true. Very true. Yeah.
Like Alice has roommates, but she doesn't class them as friends. She has a very volatile relationship with her sister. Her mum is dead. Like you
Eloise.
just didn't read about it. Maybe, yeah, to an extent. Lottie sort of with Jocelyn, but then she loses that. And um, yeah, I would have liked to have seen an example of that somewhere in the story.
Because we're sick voyeuristic fucks, would you like to talk about the sex?
Of course.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's not it's very classic, like it's beautiful, right? Like it's about coming together
Yes.
and not actually
But
coming
it's
together.
hot. Like, I don't want to take away from how hot it is just by saying it's beautifully written, because I thought the tension was delicious.
Yeah, I agree. The looks, the like the touching, the sort of being so close to each other face to face. It's what Night and the Moth gave us as well, but just proof that you can do it with queer folk as well. Proof
Hmm,
just
hmm,
as compelling, just as like drawing you in
hmm.
as well when it's same sex. So
Yeah, stunning. We got enough, I would say. Like it was sprinkled here and there. I
I
would, yeah.
I think for me it wasn't oblique enough. Like it wasn't as like it didn't have to be and then she fingered me loads. Like it just it it was a bit too ethereal for me.
Okay.
I'd
Yeah.
have liked it to be a bit
Yeah.
more solid for it to really give me that payoff, but I still found it really hot. So
Hmm. Yeah. No, it was a good time. Enjoyed it. There was a part of the story where it was really driven by lust.
mm,
And that was done so well. Like it was dripping off the page at some points.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I had a good time with it. Very hot.
Both of us, just to be clear, we are discussing the sort of the gay sex all the way through. We are not discussing the sex that
No.
Emiria Sabine has with the Viscount. Like,
To
not
be fair, I just kind of skipped through that, to be honest. I didn't really read too much of it. Once, I think the first time I read it, maybe like the fourth time, by that point, I wasn't reading it anymore. I was just
yeah.
like, yep, yep, yep.
He basically just keeps coming back to town and jumping in bed trying to make a kid, and yeah. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Bleh.
yeah. So in this one, heterosex, big thumbs down. Queer sex, big thumbs up.
Sums it up beautifully.
And you can quote us on that. So. So this is something that we ended up doing inadvertently by accident 2 weeks ago for the Night and the Moth. And Amy
Mhm.
texted me being like, I really liked when we shared those quotes and sort of like the quotes really came off really nice. And I was like, you were like, cool, why don't and you text saying maybe we should do that a couple of times instead of the Nick, or and we sort of came together
Yeah.
and decided that if we didn't have a Nick, or a Nick didn't present itself so obviously, we'd maybe share a few of our favorite quotes. I have two. Would you like to start?
Okay. Yeah, I have two. Okay, so I have from page 95, two kinds of women have leave to wander through this world alone and unmolested, nuns and widows, and I am not close enough with God to be a nun.
Oh yeah, that is OG Sabine, isn't it? And she's sort of yeah,
There's my girl.
yeah, yeah. That was great. I really liked that. My first one comes about 15 pages after that on page 110. Um, and this is our Maria discussing why she doesn't want to have children, or something. She's talking about like trying to not have kids. That her beauty is something she is expected to pass on instead of keeping.
Mm, I love it. She talks a lot about that, and you could read it as vanity, couldn't you? But who cares if it is? Like, if her motivations are she just wants to stay beautiful, that's a valid thing.
I think you're right. You can read it as vanity, but I think ultimately, deeper wise, you realize that the only thing Sabine has all the way through, other than her great personality, that the thing that people focus on is her beauty and her hair, and
Her hair.
it's almost as
Hmm
if she's been made to realize that that's the only thing she has of worth in this world.
hmm And
That
she's almost ashamed. She's almost taught to be ashamed of it because her mother even says to her, we're going to try and darken your hair because it's so fiery and red and vibrant that it's the mark of a demon. It's a
never.
bad omen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
hmm And then another one, very short, very sweet, sums up the book. How did he die? She asks. The widow's smile widens slowly.
Beautiful, beautiful. You are loving OG Sabine for that. Yeah, she does have some
I'm
pretty.
loving Sabine. I love this the whole point where the widow and Maria and that kind of new person coming into town and transformation. Loved it.
Yeah, yeah. I liked that she'd met her and had been fascinated with her as a young girl, and then sees her 10 years later and, knows more of the world at this point. And yeah, she really sees her as safety, as a sort of life raft, as a way
Hmm.
out, which I really liked. And I was really sad when V.E. Schwab killed her off.
I know. And instantly knows what she is. Like she doesn't even question it. She doesn't even say, "Oh no, she's not. She's definitely not still as young as she was when I saw her 10 years ago." She instantly clocks it and goes, "Yeah, you haven't changed.
Yeah.
You're definitely immortal."
My second one, bit longer. This is just when Lottie is realizing that she keeps pushing it under the rug that Sabine is sort of losing it slightly or rotting. It's easy, isn't it, in retrospect, to spot the cracks, to see them spread, but in the moment there is only the urge to mend each one, to smooth the lines and keep the surface whole. And just
Stunning.
the idea that it's always, we talk about the surface is it's fine on the surface, but underneath there are cracks. Like even
Yep.
just
And
that.
all you're doing is patching up the cracks. Yeah, totally. I think there's another really gorgeous quote. I haven't got it down, but to do with the house fire and why would you stay in a relationship like this? And I think it's likened to why would you stay in a house fire when you're desperately trying to save the things that matter to you? And
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Like
hmm
like like we said, those are the kind of things that, they're easy to read. They're not too over the top with words that you don't understand and words that you have to
Mhm.
use the dictionary for all the time. But it just hits you right at your core, and V.E. Schwab is such a master of that.
Final thoughts.
What more is there to say, really? Final thoughts becoming much less and less important as we move on, but we will keep it in here, God damn it. Um,
But for you, do you think you said at the start you
oh,
might have your opinion of the story changed, or was it just reinforced?
I think it's I still want more, but I wanted more justice. But I think that isn't a bad thing. I
Okay.
think now I see why it's been done this way, why it had to go tits up for everyone,
Mhm.
um, and why we had to be left with this idea that the cycle will just continue to perpetuate
Yeah.
itself. Um, but then also, I wonder whether we've also purposely been left with a little bit of hope that Alice might find a way to not rot or to,
Might break the cycle. Yeah.
yeah.
hmm
Um,
I agree. Yeah, I wanted more, but I didn't find it lacking. I didn't mind how it ended. For me, it made sense. It was definitely a cycle of violence, and you could see what was coming next.
yeah,
Yeah, it was very realistic, gut-wrenchingly so, but it
yeah,
stuck with me. I think it's one I will probably pick up again in the future and read again. I had a really good time with this one.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if I'll read it again. I mean, never say never, but I think I won't let it go so easily.
Mhm. It's
Uh,
going to stick. It's already stuck today. Like today, I was kind of doing bits and bobs and I was still thinking about the characters and still ruminating on the story. So
yeah,
that's always a sign for us. We've talked about this many times that if a book sticks with us, whether for right or for wrong, good or bad, it's had an impact.
yeah, absolutely. Um, if you guys love this book and you have not read V.E. Schwab's, if you any more V.E. Schwab's, you will definitely love The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. That is probably the most similar to this one.
Mhm.
If
I'd
that's
say
what
so.
you're after. I cannot recommend Vicious and Vengeful enough. Like that's a bit more fantasy sci-fi superhero type bit, but still so good. Very subverty in
hmm
what
hmm
you think is happening. Obviously her D Darker Shade of Magic trilogy is great. Um, More traditional fantasy. Who else? What else? What else? What else? More gay vampires. A dowry.
Hungerstone.
Oh, Hunger Stone. The reference to Carmilla that we get.
I know. I
Um,
know. It's like, oh, my girl. There she is. Yep.
yeah,
Hungerstone, amazing.
Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. There needs to be more gay vampires. Is Masters of Death by Olivia Blake about gay vampires?
I don't know.
Well, it's on my TBR. I can see it from here. If it's not, I'm going to be vi vastly disappointed.
Let me
Uh,
see. Is anywhere really missing out on?
I'll tell you what's not gay and is not about vampires. Boys with Sharp Teeth. You'd be forgiven for thinking it was gay and be forgiven for thinking it was vampires with that title alone. Anyway,
Yeah. Don't read that one. But what are we going to be reading next?
very excitingly taking a huge change from fantasy. We are reading, I believe, one of Amy's auto-buy authors. We are reading With a Vengeance by Riley Sager.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm told
Yeah.
it's very high stakes, train, locked room, deadly escape, revenge, mystery, horror, thriller, mystery thriller type thing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, twisty. I don't think it's straight up horror, but then what Riley Sager tends to do is kind of where you think it might be horror, it actually never is. So we start off with a very supernatural setup, and then it that is that trope of actually there's never been anything supernatural going on. It's all just been trauma. So, yeah.
Interesting. I'm not 100% sure how much I will enjoy that because if you're setting me up for something horror-y and supernaturally and then you turns out the most evil thing in the world is man, I'm gonna be pissed.
I don't think this one is the same as some of his other ones, but yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to give it a go. Something a little bit, I don't, maybe not necessarily lighter, but perhaps a bit more accessible. We'll see.
And maybe not as yeah, not gonna have us bogged down in like, oh, but what about the transformation, you know? So
Yep,
maybe a nice break for our little brains.
maybe. And you get to summarize this one, so a treat.
An easy treat, I'm sure. Thank you so much. You're so kind to me. Don't give me
You're
any
welcome.
gifts. Um, but yes, join us next week for that, and I hope you've enjoyed this week. Let us know if you agree with our thoughts on Bury Our Bones. VE Schwab, if you fancy coming on, and we might, if you fancy, if you're listening to this, I doubt it, email us at podcastpageturners. Nope, at podcastpageturners@gmail.com, and we'll set something up. Maybe we'll do an exclusive episode. Who knows?
We'll make an exception.
We make an exception for goddesses. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Until next week, though, happy reading.